Okay, Orlando Wilson here on a nice fresh European morning. In this video I want to answer some comments I got. We'll address some comments I got, some positive, a lot negative, about what I said in a social media post recently about conscription in the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom said, Britain said, they're going to have to start mobilizing the general public for war with Russia and all the rest of the BS. And I've seen Australia now has come out and said the same thing. They might have to start conscripting and mobilizing people to deal with future wars, which everybody's predicting, which to me is complete and utter BS. A lot of people come out of the UK saying, no, we'll fight, we'll do this, we'll do that. Idiot Boris Johnson's jumping on the bandwagon, and it's like, you know what, he should be the first one to go. Send him to Ukraine now. But all these people have come out and said, yes, conscription's a good thing, it would work, etc. You know what, it's complete and utter rubbish. And I done a video the other day saying about war in Europe. Again, it's all hype, it's all media stuff, it's all complete and utter bullshit. All right, back to what I said about conscription in UK. You know what, it's not the night, and somebody else posted this as well, it's not the 1940s anymore. You're not going to get working class people to turn up and go and fight wars in other countries for, especially who? Rishi Sunak. I wouldn't trust that guy with a tube of toothpaste. Does that guy who's the Prime Minister, unelected Prime Minister of UK, have UK's best interests at heart? No, he's thinking about money and ass kissing. Ass kissing to the Biden administration. So again, going back how many years to the Second World War, yeah, that was justified. They're fighting fascists, they're fighting Nazis. Where we could argue these days, a lot of governments are supporting Nazis. But we won't talk about Ukraine in this video, and other places. Anyway, back down to the practicalities. Somebody I know, a good associate of mine, come out and said, well, you look at all the football matches, that's the recruiting ground for the soccer matches, that's the recruiting ground for Britain's army, etc. You know what, once upon a time it was. The army wanted soccer hooligans, but the army's gone too woke. And you see all these people now, nobody wants to join the military. I think the British had to lay off or lay up 2 ships because they don't have the sailors to man the ships. You know what? If you look at the football matches, the soccer matches, and that was the recruiting ground for the British military for a long time, I mean, they don't want to join. If those people wanted to join the military, they would be in the military. Now let's take your average Brit now, or your average American, your average Australian, your average European. Okay, our kids these days going to give up their comforts to join the military. Yes, it might be good talking about it, but is most people going to give up? Do they want to get up at stupid o'clock in the morning, get beasted, get ordered around, beasted, physically trained, etc. They can't slap them around anymore, which might help, but get beasted, bad food, bad accommodation, treated like shit, ordered around, and paid pennies. Do most people want that? No. And the conscript army will be a lot worse than the regular army. I got out of the British Army how many years ago because it sucked. There is no career advancement, there is no courses, there is no this, unless you're a major ass kisser. So again, what's the benefits of joining the military? Not a lot these days. In the days, these days, would I join the British Army? No. It's a little bit too woke for me. If I was looking at joining a military these days, I think the only option, one of the only option would be the French Foreign Legion, which isn't that woke, and hopefully they're not woke and they won't be woke. But as far as everybody else, forget it. So again, I'd say there'd be a major issue with disciplining people, etc. You're not going to be able to discipline them and people don't want to be there, so you're going to throw them in jail. A lot of people would sooner go to jail, be in jail, a warm prison cell, 3 meals a day, than being treated like shit in a muddy field somewhere, all right? Okay, other one, it's UK's a multicultural country these days. So is the military, is this going to be restricted to white British people or people from all ethnicities? Because accommodating all ethnicities in today's military with all their dietary requirements, religious requirements, etc., would be a nightmare. Logistically a nightmare. It wouldn't work. So again, that would have to be taken into consideration. The other thing with all these people, it makes me laugh, the stupidity of what's going on these days, especially all these supposed military experts, which to me are Muppets. They're on about fighting wars in other countries, and I've written this in one of my articles. I've written this in a few of my articles. We'll bash the UK as an example, but US is at that state at the moment. The UK cannot protect its own borders. The UK has immigrants pouring across the channel in rubber dinghies. They can't stop them. They're too afraid to stop them. They're not going to turn them back because it might offend somebody. And you were talking about going to war. And I've written this in articles. How many sleeper cells, terrorists, insurgents could be mixed in with all these immigrants that's pouring across the channel, that's pouring across the southern border in the US? Are all these immigrants and asylum seekers, which in UK have been put in hotels and given phones and given money and being taken care of and all the rest of it, how many of these immigrants are actually going to be called up to fight? Wouldn't it make sense to start conscripting these people and sending them off to fight? Okay, you want a British passport, you want British residency, you know what, sign up, you join in the military, you're off to fight for the British Army, that's it. You're off to fight for the country. If you survive, then you get a passport. The issue is, if you're sending away all the British troops, if you're sending away British citizens, regular tax-paying, respectable British citizens, who's going to be protecting the homeland? Because once all these troops are deployed, wouldn't it make sense for sleeper cells, insurgents, etc. to start causing problems in UK? Right? It's there, it's written, and I've said this to many people. Again, I was talking to guys years ago in Greece about this. There's no need for the Turks to invade Greece because Greece is full of immigrants anyway, and they just could start an uprising, that's it. Who's going to stop them? The other issue as well, from that perspective, there is no secure bases anymore. If UK is the homeland base, you don't know who's in the country. So it's, how can I put it? You don't have a secure location to train your troops. You don't have a secure supply route for logistics. You don't have the logistics. It's, I think the British Army, everybody's given all their equipment to Ukraine, which has been destroyed. They don't have that many tanks, artillery. The Navy's in shit order. And again, it's wide open to terrorist attacks. Why is it wide open to terrorist attacks? Well, you don't know who's in your country to start with. If you don't know who's in your country, if you can't protect your own country, how can you launch wars in other places if you're not protecting your own ass? And again, if all your troops, if all your focus is on foreign wars, who's going to protect your homeland? When your homeland is full of people, you don't know who they are. Anyone could be a terrorist. Okay, let's say a Russian sleeper cell, Islamic terrorist, etc., etc. They don't know who's in the countries. So again, you have to have a secure base area before you do anything else. They don't have it. It's funny as well, and this says that the shit state of the British military at the moment. There's a report, I think, in the Telegraph yesterday that I think the destroyers the Brits have got at the moment, the destroyers, naval ships, don't have the capabilities to engage land targets, because this is one issue they're having in the Red Sea at the moment, because the destroyers cannot engage land targets. You know what, I always thought I'm not a naval warfare expert in any way. I would always thought the destroyers, frigates, etc., one of their roles would be to provide naval gunfire to support land troops, etc. They did it in the Falklands. Now, the bright sparks in the British military these days have apparently got destroyers that can provide missile support to hit land targets, etc., etc. And you're talking about going to war with Russia, Iran, and everybody else. You know what? Just looking at the facts on the table, and looking at the mess that Europe is in at the moment, the British military is in at the moment, the US military is hanging on. If you put all the facts on the table, I would be like, you know what, I'm not going to commit suicide for somebody else's stupid causes and get involved in wars that's completely unnecessary for what? Because the powers that be at the moment are more interested in lining their own pockets and actually doing their jobs and sorting things out diplomatically. So, you know what, all this stuff about conscription, I think it's funny. I want it to happen because it will be absolute chaos. And again, I'm too old to get involved these days, so I'll just sit back and laugh. And again, it's sad that the world's come to this, and I've said this quite a bit. I think humanity is not progressing, it's regressing. And the way things are at the moment internationally, it's more like a bunch of, how can I put it, the politicians are more like a bunch of kindergarten kids fighting over sweets and ice cream. But that's the world we live in. So, just my opinion on a few things. And I seriously hope they start conscripting people in UK especially, because I think it's going to be hilarious. It's going to be absolute chaos. So I look forward to having a good laugh in the future, hopefully. In the meantime, follow me along on social media. I got more of these videos up, and there's going to be more videos coming up in the future. People seem to like the political videos, so I might start prodding people a little bit more and being a little bit more controversial, which I always try not to be, but such is life, right? So follow me along on social media. I like X, formerly known as Twitter, because we got a lot more free speech there, and also LinkedIn, which is a lot more professional. So feel free to comment, feel free to send death threats, etc. I find them amusing.